Hey, what are you doing this weekend?
I don't know. Hanging out, chilling by the pool?
You want to go out?
Sure.
What's your roommate doing this weekend?
I don't know. You want to bring a friend?
No.
Mended lights.
Welcome to Ask Us Anything. We throw out to our YouTube community a topic and they ask us their questions. What are we talking about this time, Alicia?
Everybody's biggest dating questions.
All
You
right.
know what that was like.
It's
You
been
did
a minute.
for so long.
I did date for a good long while, and you were quite the prolific dater. I don't think you paid for a meal for yourself for several years.
That is accurate.
Okay, here we go. How do I listen to my own desires? If someone seems to like me enough, I convince myself that I must like them too, even if this is not really the case. So it's like a attraction of convenience or opportunity. I must seize this. I date to please them. This often leads me to settle for relationships I don't want.
Well, and I read that not even as convenience, but this is what I do in my life. Like, I don't feel comfortable expressing my own needs or perspectives or opinions. And so,
Including saying no.
including saying no
Yeah.
in a dating relationship where it is perfectly socially unacceptable to do so. Like, hey, I like you and we had fun, but I really just think of you as a friend and I'm not going to think of you as anything other than that. So I would really just love to hang out and keep our friendship.
It sounds like you've said that a lot in your life.
What? No, I don't know.
Moving on.
No, but it's important because, like, I think this person is absolutely on the right track as far as being aware of what was going on for them, right?
Yeah.
But what's the step after awareness? Compassion, understanding, never judgment, because judgment is the antithesis of growth, right? Maybe it wasn't safe for her to have opinions. Maybe it wasn't acceptable for him or her to express their needs, right? And it's like, okay, this is an opportunity for growth that I have. How can I take one small step towards expressing my needs so that I actually have dating relationships that I want?
I watched this movie one time where it was set in the...
Only once.
Only once.
Only one movie.
It was a period movie set in the 1800s, and a woman was engaged to a man she didn't love because it was the rough and tumble frontier, and he had looked out for her. And she was telling this man that she does love, that she's engaged to marry this other man. And he says, but you don't love him. And she says, he's been so kind to me. And the other man says, marriage is a great reward for kindness. Marriage is a great reward for kindness. So is dating, right? That if someone shows interest in you, you feel this sense of obligation because, well, they're treating me well. The fact is, you either feel it or you don't. You're either interested or you're not.
Yeah.
And giving yourself permission to follow your own desires is literally the only way that you're going to land with somebody that you do want to spend your days with.
I like something that you said, that in a dating or marriage relationship, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. Yes, I will marry you. And if you need time and space to figure that out, because you're like, maybe not.
Sure,
Like,
it
I
doesn't
don't
need to
know.
be a hell yes right out of the gate.
Right. Like, give yourself the time and the space to do that. And it's hard. It's hard when someone else is more interested than you are, or it's hard when you're more interested than the other person is.
But that's the case most of the time.
It is. We are not going to fall in love with and be a partner with the majority of the people we date. Exclusively or casually, right? Like, that is just the nature of dating. And so if our perspective is, 99 times out of 100, this is not going to go anywhere, right? And to give yourself the permission, more than the permission, like the absolute necessity that you need to express your needs in a dating relationship.
All right, rock on.
How do I control my emotions and emotional responses after growing up in a neglectful and abusive household? I've been repeating the behaviors of my mother, and it's abusive and entirely unfair to my partner. So I want to start with saying, like, kudos. Kudos to you for recognizing that. Kudos for you writing it, in a public forum and asking for help. Like, that is huge, huge, huge. And that is how we change generational trauma is by
Yes.
saying, hey, this is a pattern of behavior in my house, or my family of origin, or the environment I grew up in, and I'm continuing it and I don't want to.
That level of humility and accountability is everything. It's the only way things are going to change. So, how do you manage those emotions, control those emotions? It's not about suppressing them. It's not
No.
about keeping them at bay. It's about exploring them and learning how to manage them and regulate them in a way that is healthy, right? So we have an entire course on our membership called Closeness Through Conflict that will teach you, and I'm going to touch on a little bit of it here,
But the reason it's in a course is we
'Cause
can't cover it in a 15-minute video.
can't, well, and we would spend the entire video even trying, but
Right.
but the surface level is, one, recognize your body's signs of you're emotionally flooded, you're lashing out with anger, and you're doing what your family did, your mom did. Your heart's going to pound, your teeth are going to clench, your fists are going to clench, your muscles are going to tighten up, your breathing's going to accelerate. And you're going to start catching yourself lashing out. And in those moments, stop. Even if you feel like you're right, even if you feel like you're justified, you're not going to think I'm triggered or I sound like my mother. You're going to think I'm justified in this. He's wrong, I'm right, and I'm letting him have it. It's only when the dust clears and the smoke settles that you calm down and you think, oh, wow, like I really went off the deep end. So if
Yeah.
you can train yourself to say, when I go big in my responses, I may feel justified and I may even be justified, but do I want to resolve it in that headspace? Is it ever going to go well for me? And the answer is no. And so self-soothe and bring yourself down. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? This anger, this level of anger is just telling me something's off. So I need to explore that space. And honestly, when it comes to trauma, we would recommend doing that with a trained trauma counselor. Go to mendedlight.com. We have an entire innate healing program designed to guide you through this.
Well, and those strong emotional responses come from a place of not, they typically come from a place of not feeling safe, right?
Yes.
Of if I'm not safe, I have to attack before I'm attacked,
Yeah.
right? So meeting that maybe at times volcanic anger, and I only use that expression because it's something I relate to. I am very good at lashing out. And recognizing like this is either a generational pattern of behavior when it comes to dealing with anger, or this was my solution to not feeling safe. And this is how I've supported myself in the past. Is it supporting me now? If not, what can I do differently?
Yeah, what are my next steps? Good.
Not rushing the intimacy and taking things slow is really hard for me, but I know I need to pace myself. How do I do that?
Most people are wired to want intimacy. They want sexuality. They want closeness. Now, when I say sexuality, I don't just mean sex.
We want connection.
Yeah, we want connection, but we enjoy physical touch. Like we're wired that way.
I'm saying is all I really want is someone to hold me and tell me that everything is gonna be all right.
Everything is going to be all right.
And then a lot of people also want companionship and romantic connection. And then there are people who are aromantic who don't feel a draw to spend their life with someone in a romantic sense. Now, there are asexual people who don't feel a drive or a draw for others sexually as
Yeah.
a general rule.
Well, and there's people who've experienced abuse where physical touch or sexual touch can be triggering. But overall, as a human need, it is one of the fastest ways to jump to a feeling of connection,
Yes.
even if there isn't actual connection underneath it.
So because we crave connection and we crave touch, it is natural and totally understandable to struggle with pumping the brakes on that.
Right. Well, and there is a course that you used to teach.
How to avoid falling in love with a jerk.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
the course, yeah.
And we actually have some resources in our membership site
We have
to address these specific things. So that's where we can dive deep. But I'd love for you to teach those concepts, because I remember the first time I heard those concepts from you and you were getting trained in them, I was like, this is really valuable information. I think if I had known this information earlier, I wouldn't have gotten married so many times.
Well, so we covered the book, How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, on our membership site as part of our book club. We also have a dating course. So I'm going to touch on it,
Right.
but that's where you can really dive in deep. But the principle that Dr. John Van Epp talks about in that book is, he calls it the relationship attachment model. And the quick summarized version is, don't touch more than your level of commitment. Don't commit to someone more than you can rely on them. Don't rely on someone more than you can trust them. And don't trust them more than you actually know them. The whole thing about pacing yourself, how to do that, is to recognize that if you jump into a sexual relationship, your brain's going to release oxytocin and vasopressin, which are bonding hormones, which are going to make you feel very much in love and connected with this person. But it's a facade, because if you don't actually know them, you feel like you're more in love than you actually are. That's why when it doesn't work out, you say you're not who I thought you were, and it hurts so much more because you're bonded chemically, right?
Yeah.
And so pacing yourself really comes down to, here's my analogy. It may not be the best analogy. Actually, I think it's pretty good. It's about pizza, right? So if you've ever microwaved a pizza, it comes out soggy and flaccid.
Gross.
It's technically still pizza, but have you ever, I went on a date one time where my friend's parents had a brick oven in their home. And we homemade, like we rolled the dough, we diced the tomatoes, we cut up all the vegetables, we grated the cheese, we did everything ourselves.
Made it from scratch.
It took like an hour.
In the brick oven.
It took like an hour from beginning to end, but it was amazing. It was so good. And compare that to the microwave pizza. In my opinion, the best sex comes when you feel safe. The best sex comes when you feel cherished, when you feel loved, and when you feel seen. Because then it's not just sex, it's making love. And to me, that's like the brick oven pizza. It takes longer, but I have enough respect for sex that I want it to be the best version. I don't want the microwave sex. I want the brick oven sex. And so that means I'm actually going to slow it down a little bit.
Good things take time.
Well, and there's other components to intimacy besides just sex, but that is...
What?
Uh-huh.
No, but that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Creating that intimacy is what leads to the brick oven,
Right.
because
The
it takes
actual,
the time.
The actual
Getting
intimacy.
to know somebody, seeing if they're trustworthy, building trust, right? Reliance and commitment, those things.
So it's interesting. I was talking to a friend one time about this, and he when he was younger, he maybe sowed his wild oats a little bit.
I know exactly who this is.
And he was saying, like, yeah, my wife and I have this agreement that if she dies, I'm not going to get remarried. I'll just like
Sleep around.
I'll just hook up with people. And I was like, I don't think you're the type of person that can do that. And he's like, oh no, I did it just fine when I was younger. And I'm like, okay. So I started laughing. And I said, well, that may be true, but here's the thing. What happens when you're part of a hookup culture and you sleep with people you don't really know, and then you move on to someone else the next day or the next week or whatever it may be? And this isn't a judgment. This is just physiologically what happens is that oxytocin and that vasopressin gets released, but there's not an actual real connection there. And so you create a connection and it breaks, and you create a connection and it breaks.
Right, and your brain says, I don't want to go through this pain anymore. So it keeps
Right.
releasing dopamine, which is pleasure,
Right.
but it stops releasing as much the bonding hormones, and sex becomes in your mind just about the pleasure.
Right. And I said, I have no doubt as a younger, less mature version of you that you did that, and that was the outcome. I said, but now you've spent years in a committed relationship.
Your brain is
committed
now
in-
releasing these
Right.
bonding hormones in huge levels, and it associates.
Yeah, you're in a committed, loving relationship. You have children. This is important to you. I said, I really highly doubt you could go back to the hookup culture. And I'm
Your
not...
brain associates sex with
Yeah.
commitment now. Yeah.
And I'm not by any means passing judgment on any of these circumstances, because the reality is everybody needs to live the life that works for them. Just know this is what comes along with these.
This is the biochemistry
yeah,
of it.
yeah, with these decisions. And he was like, he sat there for a minute and he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm going to have to come up with another plan. And I'm like, well, the plan mostly being that your wife just doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like,
Keep her alive at all costs.
yeah.
My single biggest challenge is clinginess. I tend to cling a lot to my significant other, especially because we're in a long distance relationship. I was a very clingy person when I was dating, up until a little bit before I met Alicia. In fact, when I met you, the only reason I had the confidence to woo you, because I know had I approached you the way I approached a lot of other people, this never would have happened.
Yeah.
Because my clinginess came from a lack of self-confidence.
Please,
Bob,
please,
Bob.
give me. I need,
Bob,
give me,
okay,
please.
all right.
My clinginess came from a need to be validated and affirmed by somebody else, and I couldn't give them the space to not choose me, right? And so I would just push them because I wanted it so badly. I was so in love with the idea of love that I ended up pushing people away. And when I pushed people away, that fed into this mentality of I'm not lovable once you get to know me. And then I was even more clingy because I was afraid of abandonment. It just created this big cycle. And it wasn't until, and this is my advice to you, it wasn't until I was okay with being alone. It wasn't until I realized that I like me, I can take care of me, I can look after me, and I can have a life that's fulfilling on my own, that I could comfortably invite somebody else into it without them needing them to complete me, that it was looking for them to supplement me, right? And that cured me of my clinginess, because what I like to tell people is if you're afraid of drowning in a sea of loneliness, you're going to grab a hold of whatever slimy piece of driftwood that comes floating by.
Some of them are slimy, really slimy.
Or maybe they're not slimy. Maybe they're not driftwood. Maybe they're a solid boat, but you're still just holding on to them for dear life and you don't know how to swim on your own. Point is, be okay to be on your own first. And if you're currently in a relationship, but it's long distance, that's perfect. You've got plenty of opportunity to be on your own and to practice filling those holes for yourself, filling those gaps for yourself, instead of relying on your partner when they can't always meet those needs for you. They can't always be there for you.
My biggest challenge is that it takes me a while to get to know someone enough to consider them romantically. I struggle with internet dating because it's so 0 to 100, and if you aren't professing interest on the first date, people immediately move on. I don't know how to navigate the short attention span of modern dating. So we've been together almost 15 years. So neither of us have a ton of experience in this realm, but it was starting to be a thing, right? Like it was a thing. You were on apps and
I was on dating apps and stuff.
and websites. I was not, because I was never getting married again. But if I was to date in this day and age, like that would be me 1,000%. Like I was explaining to a friend what it looked like for me to date, and these were the rules that I made for myself because I felt like they served me, and they did, right? I was like, I had to know that person for at least a month. I had to go on at least 3 dates with them. I had to spend time around them, not on dates. And then I would consider whether or not I was even interested in them romantically.
Yes.
Like I go through all of that and I'm like, I won't even kiss you. After all of that, I won't even kiss you.
No kiss.
Now, this is not, being like, so therefore this is what everybody should do, right? Like that's what worked for me because I just wasn't interested in a lot of things, and it takes me a while.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine in the modern world of dating, having those types of standards, it can be hard. And maybe there can even be a component of loneliness, right?
Well, here's my solution, because everything Alicia's saying is absolutely true, but I actually think the solution is not that complex. You're a take it slow type person. You're a I want to get to know you type person. You're a I don't do 0 to 100. And if you need me to declare interest in you on the first date and whether we're going to move ahead, all these people are making it easier for you because they're showing themselves the door.
They're filtering themselves out so quickly.
Next, please. Next.
Because you know what you're about, so find somebody else who's about that. And like Alicia said, there's going to be a time of loneliness, and as you're looking for that person. But when you find somebody else who also finds all of this distasteful, who also says, I want to take it slow and really get to know you, et cetera, that's an indicator that this might be someone who's a good fit for you. All that the modern dating scene that you so accurately described is doing is that people are eliminating themselves from your dating pool that much faster. So it's actually a good thing for you.
There's the positive spin. Feeling insecure about dating. No one relates to that. I do get nervous and feel like I don't have much to bring to the table in a relationship. I can't help but be attracted to people who are really talented, charismatic, and accomplished, where I am just poor, tired, and trying to heal from past traumas.
First of all, I'm sorry for all the crap you've been through. Second of all, you can see this coming a mile away, but don't sell yourself short, that advice. You are more than you are seeing right now. And I can say that without even knowing you, because everybody is. Everybody is strengths and weaknesses, and someone who says, I'm tired and I'm poor and I'm just trying to heal from past traumas is dwelling on just one area of who they are. If you're poor and you're tired, that means you've lived a life. If you're dealing from past traumas, it means you've been through some crap. And what that means to me, especially for someone who's engaging on this forum, is you're likely very compassionate. You've grown in wisdom from your experiences, and you have a lot to offer in that maturity. So, okay, you're drawn to charismatic people, outgoing people. Charismatic, outgoing people can also be, like you, deep and wise and experienced, or they can be incredibly vapid and shallow, but they just present really well, right?
I was raised to be charming, not sincere.
Look for depth. And so if you're drawn to someone who's charismatic, okay, look for depth. You may be attracted to charisma, but depth is where you'll connect, and depth is what you have to offer, and intelligence and compassion is what you have to offer. And if you find somebody who is charismatic and charming, but they're vapid and shallow, what's going to end up happening is that's a recipe, and you're feeling insecure, that's a recipe for someone to take advantage of you because you have so much to offer, but you don't see that you have so much to offer, and that's manipulation and control. Look for someone mature and with integrity.
Boom.
What other dating questions would you like us to answer? Let us know in the comments below. Or what topic would you like us to send out into the universe and respond to? If you would like more time with us, more of a deep dive on your individual specific question, and a guarantee that we will answer your question personally, you can sign up for our membership site where we do monthly live Q&As that are an hour long, and we interact personally with people live in a private forum. It's really awesome.
We have so much fun.
That membership site also includes our dating course that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So,
And the book discussion, How to Avoid Falling for a Jerk.
gosh, we just want to offer you so much. We have so much to give. Why don't you let us give it to you?
That's what she said. If you've enjoyed this, check out our whole playlist on Ask Us Anything.
Until next time, folks, keep shining because
We need your light.